Alright, now we're going to be looking at the hands and boots. Again, it would be nice just to have both of them in one file, but as I said before, new students Maya to Blender, the workflow, might be better that you get accustomed to jumping between the two programs, just like this. Even though it feels a little clunky, it gets you to the point where you get used to the program. Okay, let's hit Tab. Hands are real easy as long as they're made correctly. In this case, the hand's perfect. I love this mesh. Watch this. Shift Alt. That edge loop falls right to the medium point of the hand. And then I can mark seam. Okay. L, U, unwrap. Bam. Hands. Easy as that. As long as you have good topology and it's made correctly, that works out. If you don't have it made correctly, you could just get the edge to the point where it's going down the median of the character's hand and then cut it that way. Delete that. Boots. Okay, the first thing I notice right off the bat is there is a division between normals. See how it's smooth here and it's not smooth here? So what I'm going to do here is go into edit mode, click L, and I'm going to hit smooth. That will even out the normals. Normals do take into a factor sometimes when the UV calculation of UVW unwrapping takes place. I believe so anyway. Okay, at the very bottom, I'm going to cut this off. And if you wanted to have it attached just a little bit to the mesh, that way you don't have any extra islands, because islands are kind of tricky to deal with too. You can go like this. Let's deselect the ones in the heel. So a lot of times I'll just mark a seam and then clear maybe 2 or 3 of these. That way this becomes one shell still, and the seam in this area will alleviate any pressure from the top of the boot. Then we're going to hide the seam for the side of the boot. In this case, I'm going to have to manually highlight this one. Just holding shift here. Then, when I get to the top of the boot, I'm going to find this. Again, shift and alt. So if I left this, it would become a separate shell. I don't want that, so what I'm going to do is deselect one of these. First, mark seam, and clear seam. L, U, unwrap. And I get something like this. Now, the one thing bad about these is, when you go to texturize them, sometimes it's going to be hard to do certain things by hand in Photoshop. You're going to have to rely on a third-party application like ZBrush sometimes to paint them, or Blender to paint them. Because let's say I had like some kind of pattern in here, like a little stitch seam that went around. Well, because I have these unfolded the way I do, it's going to be really hard to kind of recreate that in Photoshop. So, what I like to tell students is, if you have such things like that, sometimes it's easier to treat these as a seam. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that there's going to be this leather stitch that's going across here. Good. Now I could just put that right there on that seam. But if you look at it, was there much change? No, there was not much change. I would still have the same boot. I would still have the same problem. So I'm going to choose to put it back. Again, for that, I just go like this. Clear seam. Mark seam. And we'll try some other things in Maya maybe. Okay, file, export selection. OBJ. Here's boot and export. Just going to delete the hands. Import hand. It's already in the midline of the character because the midline rests in Maya, so I'm just going to go file or modify, edit, delete by type history, modify, and then edit duplicate special. There we go. Perfect. Again, highlight UV checkers. So by right-clicking, you get to this menu. Now, notice something about the checkers here. They're really small compared to the coat. Right now, don't worry about that just yet. We're going to have to readdress the islands and how they are laid out so we can get how many textures we're going to have on this model planned out ahead of time. There we go. And last but not least, the pants. Very easy. Just going to take care of it right now. Same MO. Smooth that. Make sure it's all like one smooth or hard, but not a combination thereof. I'm going to choose to divide this model like this. The seams will be hid quite well, and it'll be easy to texturize. L U unwrap. Perfect. File, export, wait for an OBJ, pants. Incidentally, if you did try to bring a mesh in all at once, you have to go File, Export OBJ, and you have to go down below to choose Selection Only. Okay, back to Maya, deleting the pants. The eye will handle in Maya in the next video.